Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ServiceNow ticketing system, also known as Incident Manager. This video is on my secondary channel, which is called Knowledge Base. The reason I wanted to put it on my secondary channel as a bonus video is honestly so we can get more traction, so we can hopefully get this channel to 1,000 subscribers. That would be nice. All right, so another reason is because I want to talk about some things that I missed out on the previous video that I made on my main channel, which was introduction into ServiceNow as a ticketing system. And in there I talked about how you can work the tickets, how you can create the tickets, and some options that are available for you when it comes to tickets themselves. However, I realized later on that there were some options actually missing within the tickets. So here we are. I'm going to pick a random ticket to work, and I'm just gonna, this is under open, so these are all open ticket within my group. So I'm going to select a random one that I see. I don't know here, I guess this one here. So these were tickets that were created as part of the system for developers to see, and I'm not gonna actually go and like close it or anything like that, but I will definitely talk about some important things that were missed. So I highly suggest you watch the first video, which is on my main channel, which is just youtube.com/kobuman. All right, so first thing first, when you look up here on this ticket that's open that we've selected about, what is this? I can't log into SAP from my laptop today. There are a couple of other options that are available. For example, save and exit, auto assign. So these are the menus that are actually missing here, which is unfortunate. So as the name suggests, if there's a button called saved next to here, you just basically save everything that you're doing. And if you want to click save and exit, you save and exit. It's kind of self-relevant or self-explained. And then there is another button that's not existing here, and that is auto assign. If you click that button, you see it's called auto assign. It will automatically assign that ticket to the group that supports that employee. So that's very cool to know, which I unfortunately wasn't in my previous video because it wasn't there. So let's kind of work this ticket just to show how you would go about it. On top, usually you would see any screenshots that were added, and you can actually add the screenshots if you are creating a ticket on behalf of the user and simply selecting manage attachment. And then from here, you would just choose a file and it would upload it, and that would just be it. It would just upload it and that's it. And then you just exit out and it's going to save that file, and underneath it would show it just kind of like this where it's added. All right, so here's the ticket itself. I'm not going to make any changes to it, but because this is something I've shown in the previous video. Well, let's work the ticket. So here it is, assignment group. It's actually not assigned to a group, so you can do this manually, and this is from here. And let's say you want to assign it to help desk. You can actually search for the groups through here and then assign it to correct support people. So whether it's just help desk, or some other groups, excuse me, there are other options in here. And typically, the way I do it, I would just, be aware of who is working where. And if I'm the one assigning tickets, I would make sure it's routed to the correct group. And then assign to, of course, you would pick a person who you want to assign it to. And if you just select the magnifying glass, you will see people who are part of that group. In this case, service desk. If I wanted to assign it to one of them, I would just pick one of them. So let's just pretend I am David Liu, right? Let's pretend I'm David Liu. And now we're going to save this ticket. And again, that button doesn't exist here for some reason, which is unfortunate. That's okay. But just imagine there's a button here that's save. That's what I would do. In this case, I'm just going to click update, and that should do the same thing. And I guess I'll have to pull it up again because I promised I was going to work this ticket. All right, so it says here, I can't log into SAP from my laptop today. Try to connect to SAP, and all I see is connecting ... message, but nothing else happens. This tells you right away that there is a connection issue, right? There is some kind of a connection issue. And usually that's what that means, because if you are working help desk or any type of tech support, you want to concentrate on the error messages first. Yes, in some cases error messages are misleading, and then the issue could be something totally else. And in this case, we won't know until we research further. So let's look at the screenshot. I can open up the screenshot if I click it like this, which is actually very nice how they do it within ServiceNow. I like this. I prefer this compared to, for example, Jira. In Jira, it would just basically, I think, open up a new tab or it'd be entirely new screen. But I like this where it just pulls up the screenshot and everything else is kind of transparent. So according to this screenshot, we just see that there's a login to SAP. So what is SAP? SAP is a graphical user interface used by some departments. I want to say it's used for some kind of database information, maybe account information, but it is an application that's installed to your computer, and it's called SAP GUI. And if we do a search on that, matter of fact, let's do that. I'm going to go to Google just to show you. It's an application that I've troubleshooted before because my company does use it, but it's not something I use because, why would I use it as an IT? So let's kind of look at an example of a screenshot. Oh, this screenshot is really blurry. And server, looks like there is a little bit more to it. There's some kind of a config file, but let's look at it from point of view of user. Let me see if there is a clear screenshot where it's not blurred out like this. Here it is. I guess this is one of those. It looks like some kind of a database. It doesn't matter in our case. We just know it's not working. So let's go back to what we are seeing, and that is a login information. Here it is. From this screenshot, I can immediately tell that the person is not typing in a required user ID. There is nothing in here. All I see is possibly a password, which seems really, really short. And what's kind of misleading here as well is that the error itself is just connecting. So what could this be? It could be that this user might have a wrong version of SAP GUI installed. And let's kind of look at it here. And that's one of the things that it could be. It could be a wrong version of SAP GUI. Why is that? Because a lot of times applications, when they're installed and there is a new one that's released, that old one might be disabled and not allowed to connect. So if the error comes up, which we're not actually looking at the error for the screenshot at all, then that might be the issue. If the old version of SAP GUI was using a different server connection or different settings, then that might be the case. Another option, as we saw from these other screenshots, is that there might be some manual configuration that's required. If you look at over here, you can see that there's what looks to be, and honestly, I've never had to do this because SAP GUI, it's usually just works and it's pre-configured. But to me, if you look at this, it looks like it's trying to connect to a host name that's on the network. And it tells you right here that it's a network share name and it's looking for SAP GUI landscape.xml. So it's looking for some kind of configuration on the file, on the server itself. And here it's blank. And you can also tell it's a network-based path by having 2 backslashes. That always indicates a network connection. Host name just means a server name. So this is just an example of what you would put in here. So instead of just saying host name, which is another, which is just basically a description of a computer name, a server name, or anything that's connected on the domain itself, on the network, then you would just type in, for example, instead of host name, you would say, I don't know, let's assume that the server name is SAP GUI 123 or something like that. And then you would configure all of these things. And I swear I've never actually done a configuration on this because typically, within the company I work at and within that environment, this is already done. It's really rare that you would have to do this unless you're some kind of administrator. But when it comes to SAP GUI itself, all of this stuff should be already pre-configured and they should be able to connect. Now, obviously, if this connecting issue, it says connecting, well, there's issue probably, or not necessarily probably, but I would look at the connection issues, meaning, do I even have internet? Am I even on the same domain? Am I even on the same network? You can do a trace route if you know what the host name is, for example, over here. If you knew what the server name is, you can do a trace route. For example, you open up a command line, and the first thing you actually should be doing is typing in ping, SAP GUI server 123. I think that's what we said. And nothing's gonna happen because this is just made up. And if you get like this type of information, that means there's disconnect, right? There's a disconnect, and that's hence there is a message that says connecting, right? So we're using logic here to troubleshoot this. And if you can ping it and you get a result with an IP address, you can do trace RT, SAP GUI server 123 and start from there if this is a connection issue. Now it's highly unlikely that it is, especially if this person has been using it. In this case, what's his name? Joe employee. This is obviously made up name, but let's say in this case Joe is the first time using SAP GUI. There might be some kind of a firewall that needs to be set up in order to allow a connection to the SAP GUI server. So maybe there's some kind of an exception rule that would change the firewall settings on his computer specifically that would allow him to connect to this SAP GUI server, right? And then of course, another connection issue, especially true nowadays when people are working remote a lot, it could be some kind of a VPN connection, or user simply may not be on a VPN, which could exclude him, especially if the exception to the firewall rule is based off the IP addresses, this and that. But I would start from making sure that the correct version of SAP GUI is installed. And then, and then I would look at the login issue, especially knowing that, looking at the screenshot, there is no user ID entered here. All I see is just, 4 digits of something as a password. So that's the next step I would take when it comes to SAP GUI. Now I'm not going to close this ticket because I wanted to stay in the system for educational purposes. But normally if you're resolving it, you would type in the comments under resolution. So you go to resolution tab, you would provide the reason. And in my environment, there's actually more options when it comes to resolution codes and this and that. But once you type in your resolution notes, let's say fixed by updating SAP GUI, and then I would sign off with my name, Irvin. Then I would click resolve, and then that would close the ticket and send a notification to the person who submitted it. Okay, but in this case, I'm not going to do it because this environment is for testing, and I have a feeling that multiple people are viewing this environment for testing purposes. For those reasons, I'm not going to close tickets that I have not submitted myself or created myself. And let's do one more, I suppose. And I guess I'll pick can't launch 64-bit Windows 7 virtual machine. Sure, why not? All right, so, and this is looks like caller is Fred Ludy, and that's fine. I'm not going to go through all of this stuff, but we're going to talk about what this issue might be. There are no screenshots, unfortunately, but it says I can't launch 64-bit Windows virtual machine. I downloaded and installed 64. I downloaded and installed 64-bit Windows 7 virtual machine and can't get it to launch. I'm not sure if I need a 64-bit or a 32-bit. Well, I mean, this is kind of a silly ticket in my opinion. First of all, why would you want to run a Windows 7 virtual machine? And I suppose it's a bit of a rhetorical question, a rhetorical question to myself at this point, because I've actually seen older machines, older operating systems being around as a virtual machine. And the reason for that is, well, first of all, some software, some very specific software, and it's usually from my experiences related to some kind of databases, some kind of accounts that can't be done, or some kind of HR database stuff, or it could be anything, just any software that does not run on newer version of Windows operating system. So you cannot have Windows 7 installed on a regular working machine and it being open to the network completely because of security reasons. Windows 7 is no longer supported. It's no longer getting updates. It's an old operating system. And for those reasons, these these situations, in these situations, you would create a virtual machine that would be behind a Windows 10 machine typically. Now you could obviously have Windows 7 virtual machine on a server. You can run multiple instances of virtual machines with whatever you want, and that would be okay because that server would be behind a firewall and behind an operating system that's up to date completely. So that's very important. If you are trying to run older versions of operating systems that no longer can get updates, and you cannot run them just straight up Windows 7 on a regular computer because of security reasons. There are no more patches. It's just a huge, like, it's basically wide open door for something bad to happen. So that's the reason why you would want to run these virtual machines in these old operating systems as virtual machines. Now it says here, I can't launch 64-bit Windows 7 virtual machines. Well, I mean, okay, I downloaded and installed 64-bit Windows 7 virtual machine. I can't get it to launch. All right. I am not sure if I need 64-bit, 32-bit. I don't know either. So that's the thing. I would ask you as the user, well, which one do you need? Because if you are downloading and installing 64-bit Windows 7 virtual machine on your own, then you must have a reason why you're doing it, right? This is very unusual help desk ticket because users would not be doing this type of stuff on their own. They would not be doing this stuff on their own. And I would ask you the same thing. First of all, I would ask the user, and in this case, I would, you as in user, I would ask, are you even allowed to install this on your computer? Why are you, first of all, I would look up who they are. I would look up to say, who is Fred Luty, right? Who is Fred Luty, and I would look him up in the database to see if I can find him, see who he is. See if I can find his information and what's his deal, right? Is he some kind of a guy that needs this installed? Is he some kind of tech support? Is he some kind of database guy? Is he some kind of app support people? I don't know. So that would be first thing I would ask. And then once I confirm that, then I would be reluctant to help him. First of all, I would talk to my manager if I was help desk, and I would tell him the situation. And because this might actually end up going to security, meaning security for the company, and exactly for the reasons that I explained previously why you don't want to run Windows 7 on pretty much anything unless you absolutely have to. So once all of this is confirmed, then the solution just might be to provide a Windows 7 virtual machine to this person if they are allowed to do this. But all of this looks very, very sketchy to me, and for those reasons I would be very careful when it comes to dealing with this ticket. I think I'll leave it at that. If you have more people, if you have more people, if people watching are interested in more of this stuff on my second channel, yeah, I can certainly spare a few moments and specifically use this ticket and just this ticketing system, and talk about the random tickets that are inside of this to at least help the knowledge base get pushed and get more exposure. I'm okay with that. But when it comes to this 64 or 32-bit, it doesn't matter. If you have, for example, a virtual machine like a VirtualBox here, VirtualBox, I'm pretty sure you can, let's see, create new Windows, Microsoft Windows. Here it is. You have options for all of these operating systems, and you can use Windows 7 or Windows 7 32-bit or 64-bit. So it's as simple as that. So this should be, non-issue when in my opinion. This should be a non-issue when it comes to virtual machine. Same thing if you're using Hyper-V. Do I even have Hyper-V? No, I don't have Hyper-V installed on this, but Hyper-V is basically Microsoft's virtual machine software, which I kind of recommend you use it when it comes to just running Windows machines. You can use Hyper-V, it's fine, but Oracle VM VirtualBox is also pretty good. I've used it more so than Hyper-V. Where's Hyper-V? Here it is, Hyper-V. So you would have to basically install it as a Windows feature, turn Windows features on or off. You would basically do this, click OK, it would install it, and it would reboot your computer to basically install all the extensions for things like networking, hard drive space, and everything else. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know if you want to see more of these, and please do me a favor and let me know in the comments. And I appreciate a like and a subscribe also. Thank you very much. Take care. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.